Hello friends, today we are going to talk about windows. Windows in our life, windows in building, windows everywhere. So today I am going to talk a lot about windows. It is very simple subject, easy to understand, and I am sure in this next 1.5 hour session you will have a lot of insights about windows as well. So let us start about windows. And the simplest form to understand about window is to look around ourselves, look around our lives, and then correlate where windows exist today. The first and the foremost, I think everyone is aware about the windows when we talk about Microsoft Windows, which we use in our laptops or probably in mobile. But beyond that, our association with windows comes from our homes. When we travel in the aeroplane or in the bus or in the car, try to have a window seat. And if I ask you guys, why do you prefer to have window seat? Why not the middle seat or the inside seats, aisle seat? And the simple reason is that you want to look outside. Fantastic. So here is a correlation that windows bring in our life. It is about connecting the outside with inside. Now, when you are connected with outside, there are certain functional behaviors of windows to be looked at, and of course, we also need to understand certain issues related to windows. So, I am sure you all are aware about the windows which are there in your homes and the problems associated with that. So, what are the typical problems if you look at whether it is wood windows or steel windows or aluminum windows? The simplest is you have to paint it, there are termite issues, there are oxidation, there is rusting, and sometimes you have beyond these also, which we call as either dust ingress, water ingress, noise ingress into the system. So, let us look back and see what windows does for us. If you open up the window, probably you get fresh air. Of course, you do not have fresh air anymore in the ambience, but still you are allowed to have that. It gives an aesthetic to the house. It is one of the signature style which is used as by many architects. And beyond these three functional requirements, nowadays there are three more critical performance parameters which is added to windows. The first is the energy saving. And if you are aware about energy saving, now appliances have a rating from the Bureau of Energy Efficiency as a star rating. A similar concept in window is also coming in, wherein you have performance rating. Other than this, you have a low maintenance. You do not want your windows to be repainted every 2 years or 3 years. You do not want to be replace the glass or the gasket or the performance of the windows. And the last is about sound insulation. The people who are living in cities are now having terrible time with the increased traffic on the roads, the trucks screeching sound throughout the night, and therefore, windows do have a performance to insulate your house from the sound as well. So, in short, we talked about window performances, functional performances, need of these windows in today's context, the problems associated with window, and now the next couple of sessions we are going to detail out how these performances are established in windows. Before we do that, let us take a quick snapshot on current statistics on three extreme areas. One is the energy, the second is the air quality, and third is the sound level. And this data is already available on the internet. I am just reproducing it for your reference. One of the most polluted city in India, if you look at, of course, on the PM 2.5 level is Delhi, followed by Lucknow and so on and so forth. Even if you look at the world standard which is given, we are much beyond that. and that is one big worry, how this is going to be controlled. The second biggest challenge is the sound. We talked about as one of the performance parameter nowadays. And in the last year, there was a couple of articles in the newspaper talking about how sound is becoming a new big nuisance in our life. The third and the most important is about the energy. If you look at the energy demand in the next 20 to 30 years is going to increase almost 150%. And therefore, windows do have a role to play in all these three areas. As we move on this presentation, we will cover these also in our presentation. Since we are talking about windows, let me also reiterate that India, green building is one of the biggest thing happening in the building and construction industry. Lot of builders are following up a green norm. It is a voluntary process, and happy to share, if you look at the data which exist, India probably in the next 10 years is going to be one of the largest green building footprint in the world. So that is something which is good for all of us. But what is green building all about? It is not painting the walls in green. It is about you and me. It is about how the building is designed to take care of the nature and the people who are going to live in that building.
India's ancient buildings speak of a civilization that believed in a spiritual connect with nature. Its forts, palaces and houses were built in harmony with nature, and very often with limited wastage of resources. Over the last century, as buildings reached higher into the sky, they became symbols of modernity and progress. But somewhere along the way, buildings also became detrimental for the Earth's climate. Today, 40% of energy-related global emissions are attributed to buildings. 60% of waste comes from buildings or related activities. But on a smarter planet, buildings can be designed differently. Buildings that harness nature. Buildings that need less energy. Buildings that breathe. If you choose your building to be a perfect griha, this is where it begins. Your site planning must conform to the master plan of the region. You must preserve agricultural land or protected land and trees on the site. The topsoil should be carefully separated, preserved and reused for landscaping once the building is complete. During construction, you must regulate air pollution. For example, barricades can help stop the dust from spreading into the surrounding areas. Your building can use a variety of environment-friendly materials with high recycled content. During construction, you must ensure safety and sanitation standards for your workforce. Your building can have pervious or grass paving to allow rainwater to percolate. You may also build a provision for rainwater harvesting, thereby reducing the building's total water requirement. All external lights of your building can have automatic controls and can be powered by solar energy. You can plant as many native plant and tree species in place of water-guzzling lawns. You can have efficient plumbing systems and sensors to minimize wastage of water. In a hot climate, griha buildings are designed to allow minimum heat to enter the building. Smart shading techniques and controlled glass areas stop direct solar radiation into occupied spaces. But they ensure good diffused light inside the rooms, thereby minimizing the use of electrical lights during the day. The building energy systems, such as lighting and air conditioning, are designed to achieve high energy efficiency. While most upcoming developments rely heavily on generator sets, Griha buildings meet 1% of their internal energy demand with on-site renewable energy. In all, Griha aims to reduce, reuse, recycle and reinvent.
Coming to materials in windows. Though we are primarily going to talk about UPVC, but I am sure you are aware about other materials like wood, aluminium and steel. When we talk about UPVC, what does UPVC stands for? It's unplasticized polyvinyl chloride. That's the full form of it. And before we dive into UPVC, let me give a perspective about polymer, plastics. In plastics, we have various types of plastics. For example, polystyrene, ABS, PET, polyethylene, PP, HDP, nylon and so on and so forth. And out of this, there is one gradient which we call as PVC. PVC is one of the most versatile polymer which I have seen in the plastic arena. And I would like to give you certain examples on a demonstration, maybe after this presentation, why PVC has been selected as one of the most preferred material for building and construction industry. PVC, if you talk about, it can be actually converted into different forms, shapes and properties. PVC can be as soft as sponge and it can be as hard as wood. And this change in the properties you are able to achieve because of the various ingredients which you put into the PVC, and they basically determine the properties or the behavior of the polymer. So, let me give you a certain examples of PVC usage.
Sustainability means accepting economic, ecological and social responsibility. Sustainability means not wasting energy, looking into the future, providing future generations with a life of health. Sustainability means a clean environment. Modern PVCU windows, with their energy-saving properties, boast an outstanding life cycle assessment from their production to their final full recycling. One key ecological and economic advantage of PVCU windows is their excellent recyclability. PVCU windows can be fully recycled. This means that all of the raw materials they contain can be used again, a fundamental requirement for genuine sustainability. PVCU windows are true all-round talents for the most diverse applications. Not only their sustainability, also their antibacterial and antifungal properties make them the ideal choice for hospitals, old people's homes, schools and nurseries. Opting for PVCU windows not only promotes sustainability, it also opens the way into the future. PVCU windows, with a clear conscience.
It can be used as pipes, which is used for conveying water, even potable water, drinking water. Windows, of course, it is being used. It can be used in soles. It can be used in furniture. It is used in the medical industry widely as blood bag, urine bag, tubings and so on and so forth. So, PVC is one of the most versatile materials so far we have seen, which is used in various types of application, including building and construction. Now, you may say plastic is bad. We all know that, and this is the buzzword which is going on. Let me also ask this question to all of you. If I ask you, how much plastic do you use on a daily basis in your life? You will be amazed to see the amount of plastic what you use is phenomenal. But yes, overdoing of anything actually has an impact, has an issue. If you use any plastic on a judicious way, possibly it can transform things. Today, most of the nuisance we talk about in plastics is because the way it is being used and disposed of. As we use plastic bottles, packaging and throw it anywhere around ourselves, where does it go? Nowhere. It is in the atmosphere, it is on the earth, it is not collected properly, and therefore you have all this nuisance of issue which you see on this slide. This is a recent picture which has been taken after the Kerala flood, and you can see a lot of plastic bottles after the water receded on a bridge. That means we are responsible for throwing this garbage into the environment. You would be surprised to see the amount of plastic which is used in India versus in many of the countries. We are only using 11 kgs per capita of plastic as compared to 110 or 65 in US, Europe. With such a low consumption rate, how can this be so much bad? I think it is more about education of all of us to use this material judiciously as well as dispose it of sensibly. Using plastic is not bad. Disposing of plastic in an unorganized way is what is creating this problem. Let's look at the other side of plastics. I was talking about how much plastic do we use. If you count in your day-to-day life, from the laptop, from the projector parts, from these LCD screens, from the mobile, from the pens, from the watches, anything you look around yourself, at least 60 to 70% of our lives are influenced by plastics on day-to-day basis. One of the example which I like to quote here is, plastic has also transformed our lives in a different way. If you look at automobile in 1970s or 80s versus 2020, the weight of these vehicles have come down drastically, and that has been possible only because of plastics. And what it has led to, a car which used to run 5 kilometers a liter of petrol today runs at 20 to 30 kilometers per liter. So if it is used in the right way, I think it makes a lot of sense. At the same time, we need to actually have a mechanism to recycle this material by proper allocation collection systems, which I think most of the US and the European countries do have. In India, we do lack this issue. Let's connect back to our window industry. UPVC is also a plastic, but my dear friend, UPVC was started in 1960s by Germans, and in Europe this is seeing the second or third life cycle of that product, which means these windows are taken out from the industry, from the installations, and they are being reprocessed, which means if you can recycle a product for 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, I think the amount of natural impact we are talking about is eliminated. So let's understand about PVC a bit, because this is important to understand how this material can transform the construction industry. PVC, a polyvinyl chloride polymer, as alone cannot be processed. It requires certain additives to be included, like heat stabilizer, impact modifier, fillers, UV stabilizers, and so on and so forth, to get different types of properties. If it is a plasticizer or a soft PVC, you will also have a plasticizer. But in UPVC, we do not have plasticizer. It is a unplasticized polyvinyl, which means there are no plasticizer in the system. These ingredients are very critical to understand, and these are proprietary for many of the processors who extrude profiles. And why it is proprietary is because it's imparts certain properties which you can get by certain percentage or certain. It's like a pinch of salt when you cook a food. You don't put too much of a salt or turmeric into the system, right? You just put a pinch of it and it changes the entire flavor. Same is with the PVC as well. These chemicals we are talking about, or these additives we are talking about, is added into very, very small proportion, and it can enhance or have detrimental effect on the entire formulation. So, when we talk about PVC formulation, we need to also remember one thing, that depending upon the country, region where you are going to use the plastic, it needs to be formulated to suit that place. For example, in Europe you have a very cold type of a climate. It goes sometimes -10, -20. So, to meet those expectations of temperature, you need to have cold impact modifiers, so that the profile can sustain those types of impact. Place like India, which is having high UV, you need to have a UV stabilization which can meet the needs of the country. Of course, the temperature are not that severe like in cold countries, but here the temperature is on the other side, and therefore, the profile should be able to sustain on a continuous basis something around 45-50 degrees of temperature. So, this is one of the critical ingredient in the entire process to understand how do we formulate the PVC. There is no way by which you can figure out whether this profile is well formulated or not well formulated by seeing it. But of course, there are certain tests. If you conduct on those things, you will be able to figure out whether the PVC profile works or it does not work. So, why UPVC in India? As I mentioned in my presentation, PVC in the window industry started somewhere in 1960s by Germans. And the genesis of this actually comes from basic problems of window we discussed in the opening session. I am sure you are aware that wood's biggest enemy is termite, moisture and heat. When you expose wood to continuous high humidity, cold and hot climates, the surface deteriorates, and therefore, you have to do certain work on this window on a regular basis. The problem was tackled by Germans by creating a UPVC profile with a insert of, initially it was wood, then it was migrated with steel. And why PVC? Because they found certain inherent advantages of PVC, which we will cover just in few slides after this. But let me first complete the global perspective of PVC to give you a feel how this product has been doing across the world. PVC as a frame material, if you look at, Austria has 58%, Germany 61%, Russia 77%. Turkey has almost around 90% PVC frame. And as we move forward, we will see that there are places like US, China as well at 55 and 35%. In last 15 years, India has only made 17% of the market share on the window industry. And looking at what has been the trend in the global market, I presume that this product or this material will eventually catch up in India as well. As I was talking about the benefits of UPVC, the inherent material characteristics of lower U value or high insulation characteristics, it has high enhanced insulation because of its chamber, multiple chambers from 2 chambers to 3 chambers, and it can go as high as 9 chambers. The corners are welded, and therefore, it does not allow any leakage from inside to outside from the corner joints. It has multi-point locking systems, which actually enhances the sealing in the entire window. It can incorporate single, double and triple glasses in the same frame just by changing the bead, and therefore, you can have a better insulation using a UPVC windows. Apart from this, the characteristics of PVC being very versatile material, it does not require to be painted over a period of time. The inherent characteristics of its UV resistance actually makes it work almost like 20-30 years without any work on the surface of it. And the strength is the last part, which comes from the steel which is inserted inside in an enclosed chamber, which is actually welded and sealed. So, it is not exposed to any air or water to get it rusted. So, you get a strength of a steel in a UPVC windows and all the properties of PVC on the surface. So, you do not have any paint requirement, any termite resistance, high U value, good insulation characteristics, multiple glass fitment in the same system. So, to put in a nutshell, I would like to run this video for you, why windows are important in our lives.
As you know, windows connect you to the world and the natural environment around you. But today, I suggest to not only look through the window, but to start looking at the window itself. Windows are a key component in buildings. They bring you light and comfort, but also natural ventilation when open. But windows also help make your buildings more energy efficient. They contribute to the insulation of a building, but thanks to the transparency of glass, they have the unique property to use solar heat and thus warm your house free of charge. For this reason, the best performing window for your house depends on where you live, the climate, and your particular needs. If you live in Sweden, for example, maybe you'd like to have a window that keeps your house warm when it's cold outside. Well, a thermal insulating window with low emissivity properties, low E, is what you need. It protects the comfort of your home, reflecting heat back into the room, and allows solar heat to pass and warm the interior when the sun is out. However, if you live in Rome, you most likely want to keep your home temperate all year round. In this case, you need a different type of insulating glass, combining low emissivity with solar control properties. Thanks to its insulating performance and its ability to reflect solar heat outside, your comfort will be improved. You will use less air conditioning and thus save energy. Once properly equipped, your windows will help you save energy when both heating and cooling your home. Additionally, windows enable you to save electricity for lighting. More daylight inside will also improve comfort, productivity, health, and well-being for you and the people around you.
So, let me show you about PVC welded frame. If you can see these corners, these are completely welded and absolutely like in aluminum or in steel, of course you can weld it, but in PVC, in wood you have a finger joints or corner joints. This is completely welded. But if you look on the cross section side, there are 3 chambers and the center chamber is the steel chamber, and this is completely sealed in the welding process. So, there is absolutely no air or water which can percolate into this chamber, and even the frame is with the steel section, the sash is with the steel, the strength which we are talking about comes from these steel sections. So, this is one framing material we are talking about. When we talk about other framing material like aluminum, we talked about non-thermal break. So, if you look here, this is completely the aluminum from inside to outside, and this is a non-thermal break aluminum. You also have a thermal break aluminum. If you look here, this is into 2 parts. This side is also aluminum, the other side is also aluminum, but between the two you have polyamide which is connecting the 2 parts, and therefore it stops the heat flow from inside to outside or from outside to inside. This is called thermal break aluminum, and this has a much better performance as compared to your thermal break with respect to heat, sound and other insulation characteristics.